Imagine you're a Christian in the first century and you've been following Jesus for a number of years and he's crucified and he's dead. What do you do now? All of that is coming up as we dive into the Gospel of Mark in verse by verse. Hello there, my name is Daniel Sweet. I'm the pastor here at Calvary Church in Norman, Oklahoma. We have a ministry called Truth Never Dies, where we like to dive into the Bible. We like to engage culture, defend the faith, many other things. You can check it out at truthneverddies.tv. You can even check out my personal testimony there as well. We have a series that we are starting verse by verse, where we're taking a look at books of the Bible, and as you can imagine, we're going to be going through them verse by verse. Today, we are looking at the Gospel of Mark, and we're just starting the Gospel of Mark, so we want to do a brief overview as quickly as possible so you can get your mind wrapped around what the Gospel of Mark is all about as we trek through it. First of all, the author is John Mark. We know this mainly because of church fathers who are very close to the events at hand. And for example, Papias is a church father, and he tells us in one of his writings that John Mark wrote the Gospel of Mark, and Peter, yes, that Peter, was his interpreter. And so it would seem that Peter was firsthand information for Mark, and Mark was writing it. And I think that I don't think it was Peter's gospel. Some people argue that it was Peter's gospel. John Mark was just the scribe. I think John Mark wrote it, but Peter was his primary source, no doubt about it. He wrote the Gospel of Mark in the mid-50s AD, about 55 AD, and we get this information mostly from the church fathers. More than likely, it was the first gospel written, which makes sense if Peter is the primary source for Mark. John Mark was also a travel companion for Peter and even of Paul and Barnabas. And so he was very much an early Christian around these apostles like Peter, like Paul. And so he would be a very likely candidate, a very good choice, you might say, to write the first gospel. Around 55 AD, he wrote it primarily to Roman Christians and to Christians actually living in Rome. Mark eventually went to Rome. Why did he write it? Well, he wanted to defend the crucifixion. The crucifixion seemed like a big problem for a lot of people. How God in human flesh dying on a cross, what's up with that? Well, Mark wants to write explaining, showing that this is a good thing. A brief outline of the Gospel of Mark that we will be using. You'd almost divide the book right in half. Chapters 1 through 10, Mark shows that Jesus is a servant and serving all of us with compassion and all of the things that he did. And he wants to get to chapter 11, to the Passion Week, as quickly as possible, showing us that Jesus is also a sacrifice. And that's the second part of the book. Jesus is shown as a sacrifice. First a servant, chapters 1 through 10, then a sacrifice, 11 through 16. Some of the features of Mark, what are you going to see when you read through Mark? First of all, very fast-paced gospel, very quick. It just boom, 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 moves right along. Mark wants to get to the crucifixion as quickly as possible, and primarily we see that in chapter 15, one of the most beautiful chapters in all of the Bible is Mark 15. He's going to use the word immediately over and over and over. Jesus did this, and immediately he goes here and he does this. And then he heals this person, and immediately he goes here and he performs this miracle. Just on and on, immediately. Fast-paced gospel, because he wants to show you and I that Jesus is the Son of God. He is our servant. He is a Messiah who serves, which was an interesting idea in that part of time. That's not what people thought about the Messiah, but he's a Messiah who serves, and he does that as the Son of God, and he's also the Messiah who sacrifices his life because he is the Son of God, offering forgiveness of sins. That's why the cross is so essential, and that is the overview of the Gospel of Mark, and we will begin diving right into it. May God bless you.